Congressman August Pfluger joining us now on KWEL. Congressman Pfluger, also a colonel in the United States Air Force, and we appreciate your service to our great country, Colonel, and welcome into the broadcast. Thank you much for being a part of us.
Well, Craig, good morning to you. Good morning to everybody in the Permian Basin. And as I listen to prices, I think about the fact that our oil and gas professionals, our energy professionals, keep on doing this job regardless, and have changed the world through it. So I want to say thank you to everybody for allowing me to represent literally the best district in the entire United States.
No doubt about it. And the district, this district court ruling recently to vacate, and this is very important for us out here in the oil patch, to vacate the lesser prairie chicken from the endangered species list. That's a big news story.
Oh, it's a fantastic story, and this is something that we've been working on now for 5.5 years since I've been elected. That we knew it was bad, but then Biden got into office and used every weapon possible, including the Endangered Species Act. And thank goodness we have a court system with Trump-appointed judges who can look at the facts and logically understand how weaponized it was. And make a decision. This is great news. I mean, I couldn't have been more pleased to understand this. So they're going to vacate this, which means that the lesser prairie chicken will be taken off of the endangered species list because it was not rightly put on. And importantly, what it means is that there is no appeal for it, that these environmental groups can't appeal to have it put back on because it wasn't done in the right way. So it has to go back to Fish and Wildlife Service, which I'm very confident in the Trump administration that they would not make a move like that. They of course don't want to weaponize it. So, look, this is a major victory. I'm glad you brought it up. It's good for progress in the oil and gas industry, in the energy industry. It's good for the ability to build anything, to permit anything. Great news overall, and it's one more example of how common sense is now the ruling thought and ideology, not this radicalization that we saw for 4 previous years.
Congressman, what about the lizard? Are we still fighting that thing?
We same thought process, and everybody knows that I have the Lizard Act to make sure that we limit the ability for these folks that would use a radical approach to put species on the list that don't need to be on the list. Or to do it in a way that is harmful. But yes, we are still working through that one. And again, I think this court ruling will be a major precedent that'll pave the way and set the tone for follow-on actions, including the lizard as well.
All right, Congressman August Pfluger, Colonel August Pfluger, on the radio with us on AM 1070, KWEL, and FM 107.1. Craig and Lisa Kay and Adrian's with us. Adrian on the Board of Trustees at Midland College. Now, we'll get into some really important, well, everything's important, but let's address here, if you don't mind, your office will be hosting Service Academy nights in Midland, Killeen too, but in Midland for us, coming up for parents and students. Can you tell us when, where, and how?
Well, you bet, and I believe that it's going to happen on the 27th, and let me make sure that I have the exact date for that, but it's important because this area has a tremendous amount of talent and people that are service-minded and are patriotic, and going to a service academy is important for a lot of reasons. But, we've gone through a tough time. I was just elected as the chairman of the Board of Visitors. Think of that as the Board of Regents for the Air Force Academy. We had our first meeting last week in Colorado Springs. We're going to get our service academies back on track. We're going to get them to the point where they're not teaching woke ideology, where they're not implementing DEI practices for admissions, where they're actually teaching the young cadets and the midshipmen to love our country, to love the Constitution and the flag, and to know that our country is exceptional in so many ways. That's why these service academies are so important, because we've got to teach these kids that this is the best country in the world, and especially if they're willing to die for it, that, this is, man, how important is it? So as I pulled up the Service Academy night, to your question, it's August 27th, 6 o'clock p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at UTPB at the Seed Center. And again, that's on August 27th from 6 to 7:30. We will have a host of professionals there, of Service Academy graduates, information from the services. So whether you want to go to West Point or Annapolis, of course, me being an Air Force Academy graduate, I will push for that. But in all fairness, they're all coming back to life. They are all coming back to greatness, and we're very excited about the direction that they're headed.
All right, Keith Stretcher, who is our legal editor, sends a text and says it's a Trump federal judge that ruled on the prairie chickens. So these appointments are so important, and what Donald Trump is doing. And one more thing about the military, I see too, where the Army now is going to do away with a bunch of wokeness. In other words, basic training is going to be tougher. When you get off the bus at your reception center, the sergeants, the DIs will surround you, yell at you, turn your bunks over if they're not made properly, and we're going to get back to the basics. I like that.
Well, I do too, and I went through a tough basic training. It was fair, but it was tough. It was demanding. It was physically, emotionally, and mentally demanding. But guess what? When you go into conflict, and I've been there, I've been in combat, it's demanding, and you need to be prepared. And this is the first step to make sure that these young men and women who are willing in an all-volunteer, remember, we are an all-volunteer force. And when you go into that, there are certain skills that you need to learn, and it starts on day one, and I'm proud of it. I mean, it needs to be hard. It needs to be challenging. And guess what? I heard from the brand new cadets at the Air Force Academy last week. I talked to several hundred of them. They all said they wanted it to be hard. They wanted to know that they had gone through something challenging, but that they had succeeded. We had gotten way off track in the last 4 years, so I'm very proud of the direction that we're headed.
A couple of weeks ago, we had a couple of Marines that joined us. They just got out of basic training, and they are brothers, the Pons brothers, and it was tough, they said, but they liked it, and it just gives me so much hope for the younger generation. These guys are young in their teens or early 20s, and in the Marine Corps, doing tough things, but they liked it, and so respectful, and just, anyway, it makes you feel good.
Makes you love this country and know that even in this next generation, we all have a tendency to say, well, I don't know about this next generation. Well, I do, and I've seen them, and they're patriotic, and they're hardworking, and there are those that want to serve in the military and want to protect this country, and others that want to lead in different ways. We're going to be okay, but it's a lot of that work is being done right now where we're hitting the reset button. We're going to get back to a meritocracy, a merit-based system. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is or any of those factors, that it's more about the character of that person. And I can tell you that the character that I'm seeing, like you just said about those brothers, is very impressive.
Adrian Carrasco, who is a good friend of mine and a co-host here on Friday mornings, it would do him good. Adrian, it would do you good to go through basic training.
Yes, if I could run. I mean,
but the only time I'm running is with someone chasing me with a knife.
I'll leave that up to the young bucks, but I will tell you, I mean, it is an honor, obviously, to serve the country, and I didn't get to do that, but I respect everybody that does that, and I think, a lot of people, they say, I want to go to the military because my grandpa or my father did it, or I want to go travel the world, or I want to, serve the country. And so I think it's an honor to do that. I respect that. And I encourage everybody to go out and go to these sessions because they're great and they're good to learn. It's a learning opportunity brought to you by our congressman. So.
And Colonel, you've been in the Air Force how many years?
Well, I just passed 25 years of uniformed service, so it's an honor to have done that and to have had the career that I had.
It's good. Thank you, sir, for your service. We appreciate that. President Trump is cracking down on crime, and Democrats are being so critical. I guess Democrats are in a position where they can't come out and say, our policies are so wrong that we got a guy that's doing it right. I can't imagine Chuck Schumer or anybody would ever have praise for Donald Trump, but what he's doing is very good. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, my goodness, it's been years of just chaos, and hard to understand. And you think of Chuck Schumer as a moderate. He really is when you compare him to the Squad and to, our very own Jasmine Crockett in Texas and people like that. But what are they advocating for? Are they advocating for more crime? Are they advocating for law and order? I mean, are they advocating for murder rates in Washington, D.C. to go up? So it takes the president to come in, get elected, and finally say, I've had enough, to the mayor and to the city council of D.C., and to take over that police force as he is constitutionally allowed to do for 30 days, to say, we're going to hit the reset button here. Washington, D.C. has one of the highest murder rates in the entire world. It should be noted that in the last couple of months, we've had 2 Jewish students who were murdered outside of a Jewish event. We've had an intern for a congressional member who was murdered in a drive-by shooting. The list goes on, and I'm proud of the president. I think at the end of the day, you're going to see this. There's going to be Democrats who double down on their position. But there's going to be a schism because there are reasonable Democrats, and I know that we don't see that on TV, but they are there. Their voice has not been heard. They haven't had the courage in many cases to stand up. I hope that they will get that courage, but this is going to get worse before it gets better. You're going to continue to see the Squad double down on this position of lawlessness and defunding the police and not wanting to see prosecution of crimes and cashless bail and these things happen. So I predict that it's going to get worse, but at some point in time the schism is going to happen, and I think that there's going to be leaders in the Democrat Party who do stand up and say, hold on, enough is enough. Like, let's call this what it is. But in the meantime, Republicans have to always keep this in mind, that we do need to hit the reset button. We do need to get law and order back. And I am of the mind that we have to do it with compassion. And that compassion is actually enforcing the law, because that is the compassionate approach for the 99% of our country who is abiding by the law and is being negatively affected. And when we do it with compassion, I think that we're going to have a lot of success in getting this country back on track.
If I'm a resident of D.C., I would say thank you, Mr. President, for what you are doing. I would be happy about it. And now there's talk that he may go to New York, Chicago, Oakland, and other places to do the same thing. Bring it on.
They are. You've had multiple Democrats in Washington, D.C. who have already said, yeah, this was the right call. Now, they're not going to give Trump much praise on anything, but when it's their safety, when it's their lives on the line, absolutely. And I think this is a nonpartisan issue. Law and order is a nonpartisan issue. There's just a group of Democrats who hadn't seen it that way.
Congressman, what about a big meeting today, President Trump and Vladimir Putin? What do you see coming out of that?
Well, this is a massive meeting, and it's something that the president is taking a strong approach on ending this war. Look, I am anti-communist. I think Putin is extremely evil. That doesn't mean that Ukraine and Zelensky is perfect. They're not. But this is really important. The president is strong. He's the only person in the world who can get to a ceasefire. But that ceasefire has to be lasting. And what you typically see from Putin is when a ceasefire is on the table, they increase their attacks on civilians. They try to create leverage by increasing the bombing and increasing the movement of their troops. And we really need the president, and I know he will be strong, to go in and say, enough is enough. We're going to sanction you. We are going to put sanctions on your oil, on the sale of oil around the world. We're going to use economic terms to hurt you if you don't come to the table. And there can be no wiggle room at all. And so I'm very anxious to see how this turns out. I have proposed multiple sanctions packages as chairman of the Republican Study Committee. Part of those have gone through the Senate, led by Lindsey Graham, took part of what we authored and what we wrote. But we stand ready to assist, and the president is willing to hear our proposals right now.
Do we expect anything to come out of the Obamagate thing? Will we see any prosecutions coming out of this Russia hoax thing and everything, do you think?
I certainly hope so. We have, I think Jamie Comer, as the chairman of oversight, has done his job. He's presented the facts. We know what Devin Nunes, as the chairman of Intel, saw. Kash Patel was the chief of staff of that committee. He uncovered this. Now he's in the FBI, but we need the Department of Justice to do their job and to really pick the highest priority cases and to prosecute them to the fullest.
Okay, and we are about out of time. By the way, I had the opportunity to meet with Bethany Holden. What a great asset she is to your staff. I'm sure you would agree. So we appreciate that and give her our best from us here at KWEL.
Well, I certainly will. Bethany's doing a great job. We also have Madeline on the team, and Madeline is from Menard, does a wonderful job for us. Our whole communications team helps in sending out the Pfluger flyby on a weekly basis, and thank you for saying that, because we can do all the legislative work we want, but if we don't have a great team around us helping draft that legislation and then communicate it to the constituency, then it doesn't matter. And you're right, they do a great job. And I'll say thank you to Monica in Odessa, Corbett in Midland. You know, if you need help with something, whether it's the IRS or Social Security, Craig, you might be surprised. We have returned almost $10 million to constituents since I've been elected. $10 million, which is kind of scary to think that a congressman had to get involved with the IRS or Social Security or VA benefits, but we do on a daily basis. Monica and Corbett stand ready to assist. Please go to pfluger.house.gov to get the help you need, to send us an email, and we're ready to assist. But thank you for having me on. Thank you for the opportunity to serve in Congress. It's the honor of a lifetime. We have made such great progress over the last 8 months since Donald Trump has been elected, and we're going to continue to do that. And I feel very optimistic about the future of this country because of where we're headed. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk to everybody.
All right, Colonel, Congressman, thanks. God bless.
God bless.